Boom, we are alive, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us today. This is Tio and the Arcane Bear. Bitcoin Bull Market Part 2, ladies and gentlemen. It is really good to see the continuation here. We have reached all the technical targets, at least in my opinion, that say to me, we've finished our accumulation. We're in the final LPS, or last point of supply, kind of figures before we see the finality to this bull market. That's what we've been anticipating this whole time, although we did kind of suspect maybe we'd see a quick slip down to 23K as a spring, but that did not happen. We saw a very low, very tight volume spring at the bottom of what appeared to be a falling wedge. So that is actually still what we're following. Boom. Here is Bitcoin on the 6-hour chart. So right here, this is the area I was talking about. This is where I suspected we might be able to see a spring as low as 23,000. We did not get a high volume spring, which is good to see. It doesn't really make a difference. Again, any good select strategy should basically have you buying once a month and ignoring the price effectively. When we get into really peak fear moments, like at the beginning of a pandemic, you can double down. I do, but in the middle of the market here, I don't double down. I do take positions. So I bought a bunch more Ethereum and I bought a bunch more Avalanche the other day. And now I'm just being patient. I've taken my positions. There's a bunch that actually did really well, but for now, let's focus just on Bitcoin to start. So we had our main primary breakout moment here where we got caught below the trading range and have broken back above. Often within the trading range here, the LPS can come all the way back down to the top of the trading range itself, somewhere between $42,000 and $40,000. So there is a potential that we come down that low, but when we're already above the trading range, it's hard to make that assumption. So we could actually very easily break out of without ever retesting this $40,000 area. So I wouldn't get too hopeful about testing this kind of bucket area alongside the volume profile. Could be a possibility. I'm not betting on it at the moment, although it does look like we have a small distributional trading range, which is usually quite likely at these final SOS and LPS stages, which again, down to 41, 42,000 seems likely, and then much higher. I believe we're going to be going to screaming to new all-time highs after that bucket, or maybe even before. You're going to want to keep a really close eye on this horizontal trading range that's actually taking place right here, right at the end of the larger trading range that we're in. And we've seen these quite a few times before. I'm extraordinarily bullish for this reason. This all looks sexy to me. Same with Ethereum. Ethereum hitting all the signals so far of our reaccumulation after decline. I don't know why, but my volume profile is no longer on the side. Let's go ahead and load that up. So for those of you that don't know, I use something called the volume profile. It is here. I use it on visible range. Boom. Oh, there. All my colors are schwanked back. So what's the first off? The VPVR only comes with volume area, which go to 121. Row size also 121. The reason why I like the volume profile is it shows effectively our current stage of trading. Volume down is red, sorry, and volume up is kind of this blue color we like, bango, bango. And then same again with here, volume area down, volume area up is the blue. Okay, so what this does is actually shows us the amount of buying and selling on the right-hand side. Now this is only for pro users. If you're new, you don't necessarily need it. I love it, especially when we're in an intermediary trading range. Check out the point of control here, this red line that moves through. This is a very important area for us to pay attention to. The trading ranges are constantly using that point of control as its test range. As soon as we broke above here, this was the bullish signal effectively. But again, could we see a quick dip down to 2,800 before going higher? Yes. That's usually what the last part of this kind of horizontal trading range outside of the box does. So it does appear to me everything looks super bullish. I am bullish. Okay. See, so once we saw this confirmation here the other week, I went from it just instantly changes the thesis because, well, here we go. Now we've got a confirmation to the upside. We lean into that. So This is always one of the tricky areas, is this phase C, kind of phase D. This is what we are going through between the beginning of July effectively and the end of July. This was where the market can really decide to go either way. It could have very easily broke down here. Although there were a lot of leading indicators to say that we were going to get that extended bull market because of the amount of time the accumulation range itself took. But nonetheless, for those of you that are studying, you will begin to recognize that phase C, phase D, and phase E are the confusing ones. And this is where you want to be patient with any potential that you're making. Once you get into where we are now, which appears to be a clear phase E, then it's a different story. I wouldn't call it all in, but I have waded back into a good chunk of positions. Again, reminding oneself that my main goal and strategy is always 3 to 5 years of business operations. That's taken care of. So everything else is kind of, let's say, house play space. Avalanche as well, looking really nice. Following this falling wedge that we've seen in multiple other tokens. We're going to go through that today. It is now breaking above its widening pattern and into the top of the trading range. We might have to move this blue line out over here, as it does look like we will be extending that earlier. Although please note that this bottom line of support here, which comes in and goes out to around $15 where we are today to $18, very easy and often likely that we do come back to those sentiments. But the important part here isn't about the exact moment. Let's say we go to $24, back down to 18, up to 24. There's kind of this extended megaphone pattern we've seen that leave the back of the trading ranges, and these are very powerful. So Avalanche is looking very bullish. Solana, look at that. Here, very similar pattern, right? We've got our trading ranges taking place. That very, very sexy. We saw this in Bitcoin. Here's the top of the breakout. As soon as we cross the point of control, again, notice this red line here. As soon as we cross that point of control, it basically went straight up for Solana as well. So hats off to all the Solana accumulators. That's 100% gain in a very short period of time. This is the altcoin bull market. We're seeing these explosions as Bitcoin gains its strength, and we're going to continue to see these, in my opinion. 1 inch also very similar, falling wedge, moving up to the top of the horizontal trading range right now. Almost across the table or across the board now, we've seen these falling wedges move into the breakout above the trading range. 1 inch is no different. It's just a little bit behind. Again, compare with Solana. As soon as you broke above that point of control, it moved up really quickly. We are actually quite a bit below the point of control for 1 inch still. So it's very likely that the next jump is to around $4. How much higher it goes, again, remember this sentiment, tails I don't lose much, heads I win. If you lead all of your investments with this mantra, it is very easy to be successful on the long term if you meditate on what this means. So do not forget to take out your daily morning monetary meditations and remember to repeat this mantra. Heads I win, tails I don't lose much, baby. Okay, Solrise, one of our VC interests here, doing really well. Since our first entries, we're already up 140% at 150 at the peak and currently down around 130. I do believe these guys are going to go quite a bit higher, although it does appear to me that we see the formation of a new trading range taking place right at the top of the point of control here. So it's likely to me that what we'll see is a reaccumulation schematic and then moving much higher. So probably where 1 inch is going. Cardano, again, this has been a really interesting intermediary market. It was one of the things we talked about when we were back here is at the middle of the market the risk to reward relationship is almost equal. So you want to be a bit more cautious when you are entering into the late of the markets and knowing that consistent monthly strategy is the most effective, and you just basically ignore price. If you entered into the mid of the market here and you missed all the beginning back when Cardano was under 10 cents, being up here, you can still make entries, but they should be based solely off this idea of heads I win, tails I don't lose much. Otherwise, a lot of people go, oh my God, if I put this much in and it goes up this much, it's going to $10, I'm going to be a millionaire, yay! And then it doesn't go that high, it goes to $4, before you know it collapses back down to 10 cents and they've hurt themselves. So when you're in the middle of the market, you want to start with a more seasoned strategy, not just try to go all in the midway. It's nowhere near as successful. Serum, Also pulling its weight this yesterday. As soon as we got above the middle of the trading range, we went bang right to the top of the point of control. Again, here we can see this falling wedge pattern where as soon as we broke above the wedge, it was nothing but positive momentum. And this is why when this moment changed last week, we just went, okay, we're bullish now. There's no need to pussyfoot around. There's no, oh, it's a dead cat bounce. None of that shit. We are bullish now, probably for the next 3 to 6 months. This was a huge point of confirmation. The fact that we see this in every other aspect is the way to go. These are not dead cat bounces. Dead cat bounces would come right after, like this, and then fall down. That's a dead cat bounce. It's right after the initial fall. It's not 80 freaking days later after your fall. This is not how dead cat bounces work. Dead cat bounces are almost always instant, somewhere around this first drop area. So please note that the reason why I'm so bullish now is because we have all of those indicators leading themselves within this market cycle itself. So I'm going to take a look at a few more of your guys' thoughts and questions. I just wanted to make sure the live stream is up and running, going smoothly, because I can never tell if I'm doing it right. Give us a thumbs up if you like this content. And yeah, remember to leave your thoughts, your comments, your questions down below. Let's see here. Just a few quick questions. Cheers, everyone. Great to see all the Bear family. Awesome. Cool. Okay, so I'll just go back and finish the rest of the market cycle breakdown here. So SRM looking really good. From the bottom of our falling wedge, we're already up 180%. So that's great to see. Very, very fast recovery. And again, this is the importance of recognizing this kind of final moment before the Bitcoin or before the bull market start, is once we crossed over these falling wedges almost across the board, we could make an assumption that this was also a falling wedge in Ethereum, although it was significantly clearer in Bitcoin. As soon as we hit this blue circle, which was again the breakout of the point of control as well as the falling wedge, it's just been nothing but upside. I do suspect that what you are witnessing and things like Ethereum, Bitcoin is going to follow suit. So this is where Bitcoin is right now, at around the $47,000 mark, and it's going to jump very, very quickly to around 60 grand probably within the next week. I mark my words on that one, ladies and gentlemen. Once you find the trend, you follow that and you let it lead. So we found the trend as soon as we broke out here. We are bullish again now. I won't change that probably for the next few months. There's nothing in my opinion that's going to shock that, unless we get an asteroid or some cataclysmic event that we could have never planned for, because you have to be able to plan for the fact that there are unplannable events. That could destroy every market sentiment. There's no technical analysis for trying to figure out when that's going to happen, although often you do get a little bit of warning like we did with the pandemic there. Not always. Okay. Why do I have XRP on the screen? Oh yeah, because of the BitBoy podcast. I'm just going to close that. I'm not a fan of XRP. But remember, the same sentiment goes. If you're interested in XRP and you really understand the mantra of heads I win, tails I don't lose much, you should still be making your own investment if that's what you feel you should be doing. Don't ever listen to someone like me. Follow your own pattern, your own strengths, and your own routine to really drive home your own thesis. I'm just here sharing my story, what I've done, what's worked for me, and what I think is the most successful for anyone who wants to pick up the reins here and jump in the fun. Matic also appears to be that reaccumulation after decline. This is one of those reasons why we talk about that dip being able to go much lower, why we had the Bitcoin potential for a dip down here at 23,000, is you do notice there are very, very deep springs all of a sudden that happen in the middle of these trading ranges. So you don't want to ignore that. You don't want to ignore the data that we have that says, look, springs can get very deep sometimes. Don't get pushed out effectively. The volatility index, we're doing quite well. We're still in our descending channel, which means overall the market is probably doing pretty good. I do suspect that in the coming months, October, November, we're going to have a peak out here. It'll probably be the part of the down cycle for Bitcoin. Let's say we go up to 70, 80, we come back down to 60, 50 before going up past 100 in between these months in December. So I'm going to keep a close eye on the VIX here. I do suspect that they will align with one another. Not going to be an asteroid, but definitely going to be some difficult flu season like thoughts going on there, I believe. The dollar index, again, the antithesis of Bitcoin, but here is one of the other globally recognized currencies. I do believe Bitcoin is a much better currency. If you have to sit on capital, at least that you don't need in any sort of stability at that moment, Bitcoin's the way to go. But the US dollar, the DXY here, is a good way for us to measure the general sentiment around the dollar. We have to know that they are printing trillions of dollars, and that's generally why our markets have been only going up. We've been watching that in the S&P 500, and we've made some very interesting calls that a lot of people we've gone against the grain here, and everyone's been talking about a stock market crash, and I've been one of the very few talking about a stock market melt up. And that's exactly what we've got. And one of the reasons why we believe that's the case is because when we go to comparison, we take this little idea that they've been telling us, which is, hey guys, we're just going to print money because we don't really have any other options. You look on the 1 week, the orange line is the basically the banks like how much dollars they've printed effectively. And look at this, step for step. As the S&P 500 has gone up, so has the monetary supply. This is direct correlation between the inflationary marker of the amount of open dollars in the liquid system and the amount of assets. Because if you're sitting on a bunch of US dollars, you probably don't want to be. You'd be wanting to buy assets, and that's what a lot of companies do with their treasury. They do not just sit on US dollars. They will buy the machines, the tools, the warehouses, the real estate. They will make investments in other startup companies. Their treasury is usually very diversified, and that's what you see here. You see the S&P 500 growing right alongside the monetary supply. I suspect this will continue almost indefinitely. I don't see what will break the confidence in the US dollar. Something will, but we don't know when. So I could give it another 10 years before we see that confidence break. You would need a real decline in the trust of the US government, which I'm surprised hasn't happened already. I sure as heck don't trust any of the governments that I've ever lived under. I can tell you that much. Okay, NASDAQ. So this is always one of the interesting parts, and I wanted to go over this kind of one last time today. It is the fact that when you're in phase C in a trading range, it can be very, very deceiving. We have no clue yet whether this is a bull market breakout or a distributional phase. If this is a distributional phase, it will actually bring Bitcoin down. Now, again, at what point does that happen? But I stand by my thesis. I stand by the idea that they're going to print US dollars, and what you're going to see is an even higher high for the NASDAQ. Not a breakdown, but a higher high. Now, again, this looks like a beautiful rounded top coming into a phase D of distribution. You're like, oh my God, it looks identical, right? There's a very clear argument here for the structure of the NASDAQ composite right now, and its phase C turning into a distributional event. But based off my previous conjecture with the only up scenario here based off the US dollar printing, I just have a feeling that's what we're going to see. As much as we don't like it. But hey, that's why we're all here investing in Bitcoin, a currency that does not need a government, a money that does not need an intermediary or a bank to confirm or deny my transactions. This thing runs whether you like it or not. And that's why we started to make our initial investments here so heavily, is because we're really interested in what this sector can provide for those who do not always operate within the bounds of what the government thinks is kosher. As a matter of fact, I would like to make a shout out to all of you that go over to places like BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey and support all the crazy people. I'm very disappointed that YouTube has removed like flat earthers and people that just talk all crazy conspiracy theory, because they are what made the infinite part of the internet entertaining, because you could find all the crazy batshit conspiracy nonsense theories and decipher that, yes, often actually some very tiny percent of what they were touching into was often true. And often it wasn't, but at least allowing those ideas to come out and see the day of light, it gave the general broad spectrum conversation the ability to decide on their own. And when you remove that part of the conversation, it is disastrous to any open and free society. And where we are moving today is scaring the crap out of me, because we have removed the ability to have two sides to a conversation, and that should worry everybody. But aside from that, we keep investing in hopefully these solutions here, which is the decentralized marketplace. The fact that if we build this properly, you won't need a government. We can rely on the smart contracts to execute the codes, to spend our taxes building the bridges that we would be interested in actually building, and really voting for them based off our cryptographic identifications. Now, there's all sorts of conversations around tyranny and whatnot here, but I don't really know. Hopefully we'll be able to get past that. And I have a little bit of a jest of optimism for the human race. We've made it this far, so let's keep saying we keep tyranny under check there. Anyways, this is Tia with the Arcane Bear. Thank you all for joining us today. Had a fun time. Hope you're enjoying this bull market. Part 2, the continuation of when we first started here, March 2020. Very excited for that. I've got a bunch of tokens that you guys wanted me to go over that we collected from the live stream. Oh yes, and one last thing. This is actually probably the one I think to be the most exciting part of today's conversation. Okay, this can be found in the links below. This is my art piece called Left versus Right. There's approximately 4 hours only left on this auction. So just so that you guys know, this is a custom one-of-a-kind TO art piece. Every art piece I've ever made and sold has gone to charity. So this, the highest bidder will get to pick the charity that we make the contribution to, and the contribution will be in that of the bid that is the highest. Currently, shout out to Window Tinter, who appears to be a fairly avid NFT collector. I see some Gary V NFTs here that this guy's got. The Firefly by Gary V, great work, and the friend, what's a V Friend Family Gnome? I don't know who that is, but definitely looks to be that. Oh, nice, and the World of Women ones. These are another great charity NFT. So shout out to Window Tinter for currently being our highest bidder on my charity art campaign. I cannot tell you guys how humbled and privileged and blessed I feel to be able to draw, make some stuff up, and then have these fun ways to collaborate with charities of your guys' choice. I do want to show you the next one, just for fun as well. So this, we're gonna do these maybe once a month. So this is next month's one. It's called Bit Bear, and it will go up for sale for charity as well. But I just want to give a shout out to Window Tinter for being our highest bid. Let's see if we can get it even higher. If not, 4 hours and that piece goes to Window Tinter as the productive winner of this month's charity campaign. Again, we'll do it once a month. That way we're producing one art piece per month to sell for charity. So thank you guys all for that. It's really, really fun. I can't express how the level of gratitude I feel for those types of opportunities for myself. A, because I like making art, and B, because we like helping other people. It's kind of this sweet way to do something productive that's kind of outside of my normal terrain. So anyways, thank you all for joining us today with this Teal with the Arcane Bear. I really appreciate your guys' support. We will be back online. We have a podcast that's coming out today. I think with opening up offshore corporations, offshore bank accounts, what it's like to get citizenship and residence in other countries. We're gonna have a few more of those conversations over the coming months, so stick around for that. And just in general, thank you all, Bear family, for supporting us through these fun and wild times. We're gonna see you guys again on the next episode.